All right. Real quick, this is going to be completely non spoiler for everything in the series, including The Faithful and the Fallen, the first four books. But I want to talk about kind of the differences of what I found and what I thought about it. I just finished the last chapter of this. It's the first book of the second part of the series, the second trilogy, I guess, of Blood and Bone. I just finished it within like 2 minutes. And holy smokes, I want to give my thoughts. So, when I was getting into fantasy, I wanted to kind of expand my horizons and things. I saw some cool covers, like the coolest. And sometimes I buy books just because it has a cool cover, like the Artillerymen book that has like Civil War guys fighting dinosaurs. I'm like, yep, I'm gonna buy that. But these ones, Faithful and the Fallen, have these four different awesome weapons on them, and then I looked up and they were well regarded, and so I read them. This was a couple years now, and I read them in a month. I loved them so much. Now the first ones, it's very much like a good versus evil. Think of like Lord of the Rings, where it's not so much like gray area stuff where you're just kind of not sure who to root for, or even if you're rooting for the protagonist, they're like very morally gray, like like in Abercrombie or something like that. It's very much a good versus evil series. The first four, there it's kind of like an angels and demons sort of idea to it, like beings of light and beings of dark. And then also it has this big, it has this continent where it's a clash of kings and things. There's like a chosen one trope, a lot of familiar things. And man, the battles are just incredible in the first four books there. And I really loved it. I can't wait to get to them again. As soon as I read the first book, I went and I bought the next three. And before I finished the first series, I bought everything that John Gwynne has written so far. Anyway, really loved it. Now, without going into spoilers for the second one, I was really wanting to go right into A Time of Dread, into the next three. Within the Faithful and is it the Banishedlands? Anyway, whatever. But I didn't, because I wanted to go to other things like I've mentioned before, like Brandon Sanderson. I wanted to read, I went into Malaz, and there's a whole bunch of other things that I went and read. I read a lot of sci-fi, so I didn't want to overdo it, but I was very excited, and oh, I am so glad that I'm back. Now, the difference and what I really liked about the first ones versus the second ones. Now, the first ones, it seemed very familiar. It did the battles so well. It does, within all the books I've read of John Gwynne so far, he does father figures really well. Actually, yeah, and just parental figures really, really well. He has a lot of, like, he knows, he's got the goods, I guess you could say, when it comes to that sort of relationship drama in his books. His characterizations are so great. I really loved most of the characters in the first four books here. And early on in the series, in The Faithful and the Fallen, you kind of see, you see like the chosen one sort of trope. So you kind of follow that, when you go into Lord of the Rings, and you just kind of follow Frodo. Even though there's all these other things, that Frodo's journey is kind of the one that stands, is like the main thing. And so the first one has that. Now, in The Time of Dread, we get four perspectives. I'll name three of them. One of them ties very closely to the first 4 books, so I don't really want to mention that because, sometimes people die, and I don't want to mention maybe who it would be. That would be kind of closely connected to this next series. But we have Beletta, who is... Anyway, actually, I don't want to go into the characters because that's not even specifically why I like this. But I will say that for a lot of this book, I didn't get the idea of exactly maybe why these people were overly special, or if they, even if they were. And more than that, there was this prevailing sort of eeriness that existed in this book that didn't exist for all of the first 4 books, where the first 4 books were a lot of politics and war. This one was almost like a mystery. I almost felt like where the characters kind of were in the know a lot in the first 4 books. I mean, obviously there was a lot of mystery and they didn't know. The reader in this next one is just as confused as the characters. And I almost felt like I was dropped into like Alaska, where, there's this mystery. Imagine that, it's all cold and crappy, and there's these villages that are trying to keep away from all the trouble that's happening elsewhere on the continent. And, people are just struggling to survive, but people are going missing. There are these there's this eeriness to this first book of the series that is very dark compared to the first 4. Now, content-wise, that doesn't mean you should keep away from it. It wasn't overly gratuitous about anything, but the theming of what was going on in this mystery, it almost felt like they infused some Dracula sort of gothic horror to this continent. And so while we have these different perspectives, and you're not sure why they're special necessarily, and they're separated largely, especially one of them from... Actually, 2 of them are kind of separated over here, and then 2 are kind of closely mixed. And you wonder how it's all going to mix, but they're all kind of seeing elements of this weird stuff that's going on. People going missing, and weird rituals, and just eeriness. And by the end, holy smokes, that last 100 pages, I just flew through. And it was so exciting. There are things that happen just before hitting record in the last 5 minutes of reading where it's like, what the heck? I am so excited. I think people should read this. It's a big cast, sort of, but it's not hard to follow. I think he creates scenes that are very vivid, that are exciting. He doesn't wear out his welcome with scenes a lot. There's always something that happens at the end of these chapters or during, and they're very short. It's just so readable, and I really enjoy it. Now, I don't know what's next. I don't know if I go right into the next 2, A Time of Blood and A Time of Courage. I'm thinking that I might go to something else, though. Who knows? But it's just so good to be back with The Faithful and the Fallen. I'm thinking maybe I'll reread Gardens of the Moon and give some thoughts here, but who knows? Who knows? I'll talk to you guys on the next one, though, and I was so pleased with this one.